This conference will now be recorded.
All right, welcome everybody. This is our November Clubhouse chat where we're going to talk about the new rule revisions that came out and the new games, some training ideas to go along with those. This is being presented by the NATE Competition Standards and the NATE Training Committees. So there's quite a few of us involved in pulling this all off here today. So first, we're going to talk about, who's here. The competition standards. I'm Chris Rader, and I co-chair the competition standards with Eric. We met, and Margaret is one of our chief game designers. And then Susan Brogan is on the committee. She's a judge. I don't believe she's here today. And we have Sandy White, who's on here from the skills certification standpoint. And then on the training committee, Sandy, of course, is the chairperson now for the training committee. We have Natalia Bravo, Sam Lights, and then I sit on that committee too. So just to give you an idea of some of the people that have been involved in coming up with the new rules and then having to come up with training ideas for all of this stuff. Just to give us an idea, we're going to go through, try to keep us on track so that we do, sorry, we're just going to advance a little too fast there. So we do stay on top of and try to get all these things covered. We're going to start with just the general rule changes to see if anybody has any questions about those, the general rules. Then we'll go into the new games. We'll do a Q&A on that. Then we'll go into the training ideas and we'll try to break it up so we touch on the pairs and team, and then the urban herding, and then also touch a little on the equipment, that how to go about getting that together so you can work on the urban herding game. Okay, so with that, we're going to start with, right, I have to move all of you guys, you're kind of in the way. We're going to start on there, the general rules. We didn't have a lot of changes in the general rules. I've got a simple list there. We also had a change of summaries that we put out. Very little that actually changed. We did put in a few things, once a vet, always a vet. We took care of the, probably many of us were not aware of it until Natalia pointed it out. The ball stabilizer section was had a lot of incorrect numbers in it. So we've repaired all that and added a few. But other than that, we really just clarified some things. We did add that the video titling judges, we gave them some leniency to give some faults to things that wouldn't happen in at a live event, but they show up on a video, and we really only had two choices. We could send it back, or we could call it an NQ. And a lot of times these are really minor things that didn't impact the game. Something as simple as the dog downs and they're half outside the box. Well, that wouldn't happen in a trial because the judge would say, move your dog into the box, and then they would call time. And it just seemed wrong to throw out a run for something like that. So we did give the video titling judges some room to move and do some things. And then kind of a big thing is we moved skills certification into the handbook now also. So those rules are completely written out and where everybody can find them. And there's also a title and a ribbon for those who complete all 9 of the skills. So I just like to throw this part open now. Does anybody have any questions about these general rules? Anything that bothers it? Or you want to ask why, or what are we talking about? Let's just throw that out there. All right, everybody's good with those? Good. All right, so let's just move on. I can get this to pop up. Here we go. The next section is the new games. We added 3. One is team, which is 1 handler and 2 of their own dogs. We added pairs, which is 2 handlers and each with their own dog. And then urban herding, which brings in pens, fences, gates, a whole lot of things. And maybe the biggest thing is the dogs will start driving the ball away from us instead of toward us. So to do the Q&A, let's just try to start with first, does anybody have questions or want to discuss the team game? Anything that you'd like to to talk about with that. Let's just throw that open first. Anybody? All right. If there's no questions on that, does anybody have any questions about the pairs, the rules that go along with the pairs game? Be quiet. Very quiet. All right, then let's go. How about the urban herding? Has that game got any questions for any of you guys?
Sure. Is it possible?
That's a good one. That's
It
a very
is.
good. It is. Well, we know novice is possible. Let's do that. Anybody else
Hey,
want
Hey,
to?
Chris.
Pardon?
Chris, I was a little confused. I think there was a statement in the rules about it was either a Q or an NQ.
Yes.
Can you explain
Yes.
that a little bit more?
Yes. So this game is designed the idea that you either complete the tasks or you don't, and you and of course if you don't, that's automatically an NQ, and you have to complete them without hitting, doing particular things incorrect. Might be anything from, stepping out of the handler box or, a lot of the standard things. But instead of giving faults for that, it becomes an NQ. So we really wanted to focus more on, do you do the tasks and do them correctly or not? And then the idea would be, it's a timed event, and whoever completes it and completes it fastest would be the first place, and then on down the line. So you wouldn't see something like added faults for infractions. That answer your question?
Yeah, there wouldn't be any plus 10 seconds for
Right.
bringing the wrong ball in or something.
Right. And so it would either be you did the tasks or you didn't. So
And if you didn't do it correctly, it's an automatic NQ. There's no grace.
exactly, there's no grace.
And what about handler faults, like stepping out of the handler area?
And Eric, I'm going to let you step in too, or Margaret. I think we've pretty well listed that. Virtually all of those things like that we think of as minor in the regular game, give minor faults. Those all become NQ situations. Eric, is that?
Yeah, it's a pass fail.
Looking at the rules. Yeah.
Yeah, pass fail. So let's give for sure. So, but the time is going to come into play a lot more in this one. The distances aren't nearly as much until you get into the upper levels, but the frustration factor is going to be there for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Does anyone have any video of a dog playing this during the beginning level run?
Yes. And
Yes, as well.
I was going to say, we have two, and it'd probably be, we can get them out. We have one that's looking down on Eric's field where, there's mezzanine, so you can look down from the top and see it being played. And then we have one that's more playing field level of camera angle where we've got several people playing it. And we can upload those to the website. I'm not sure we can show them successfully within this GoToMeeting setting. Usually the videos
Now that you say that, I think I have seen those. Were they part of some other meeting or links were shared or something?
I think, yes, I believe back in late summer when we announced that the new games were coming, we shared links there.
Okay.
And what we can do is we can get those shared out. Would be good ideas. Besides, I'll put some links on the website. I'll also, and we can make that as something that the training committee can do, we'll get those on the website, and we'll also, I'll email out those links to the members so everybody can see those.
Hey, Chris, is there a prerequisite for doing urban herding? I mean, do you have to have a novice title before you do urban herding, or is that just, you can just jump in?
You can jump right in.
Thank you.
There's nothing to stop you on that.
Hi, hey Chris, it's Brenda.
Uh-huh.
I wanted to mention that, well, the night before our trial, I did actually kind of read the rules. And I just wanted to point out that if you're video titling, there are some very specific things that you have to do if you're video titling, like the ball behind the furthest gate has to come between the two side gates. So if you're practicing, make sure you practice the appropriate way your dog brings the ball back.
Yes, that's a really good point. Because of the way these games are set, and this game is also set so that during a live event, the judge has leniency on, not leniency, that's part of they can decide where the balls start. You know, in the novice level, there's 3 fences. In fact, there's a gate and there's 1 pen. And the judge can make some decisions about how things are supposed to be. So what we did for video titling is, and it's one reason the handbook got so long, we gave video titling, for each level, there's a number of different initial setups, and you need to be able to get a cue with 3 different setups at each of the levels. So that's why the book gets we have all those different initial setups, so that for video titling, you do have to work from different arrangements at each level. So yes, a very nice point to pay attention on video titling, what you're filming. All right, any other questions? I have to say the first level, actually, once you see it and you see the video, suddenly you realize, well, that's really not so scary. It reads with some really tough, you draw a picture in your head that's horrible, but then you actually see it and it's really not that bad.
Yeah, I'm just curious, you know, we've spent all these years teaching our dogs to push towards us. How do we differentiate for them? You know, what, like, is there like a core principle or idea or to get that going?
Yeah,
That's actually a great question.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, Jet got so frustrated when I was trying to get her to drive. But there's a lot of similarities. I don't know if anybody here is in the sheep herding world, besides Sam. I know she is. But there's a lot of similarities between sheep herding and urban herding now. We're really starting to cross over. And one of the things that you do in sheep herding is you really teach the dog to fetch, bring the sheep to you before you teach him to drive the sheep away. Because driving away is not a natural instinct. So if you start there, you can really frustrate the dog, and you can actually end up kind of spoiling the whole game. So you really want to make sure you have a great principle and foundation of the game itself, right? Before now teaching your dog a whole new task. Now, one thing that I did see with Jet is that I had to start differentiating the difference between a push, which was bringing the ball to me, and something more like a drive, which is driving the ball away from me. But I just started with a ball between 2 gates, right? Just like I would a young dog, where I would send the dog out around the gates and bring the ball back to me. I now stood next.
Eric, yeah, there you go. You've cut out for a second there, Eric. Yeah.
Sorry, stood next to her and had her pushing the ball away from me. But I did have to start differentiating those cues.
Yes.
So.
Right. So yeah, and we'll get into that a little more when we start talking get to the next slide. We talk the training ideas. Do we have any more questions about the game? The top picture, you can see there's the goal would be to the right. You can see a pen, and you can see 3 fences out on the field, just to give you an idea of you know what kind of things we're talking about. if we don't have more questions, we'll go ahead and we'll move into the training ideas section. Okay. All right, so first let's go with the team and the pairs training ideas. The training committee did come up with a couple, and they actually have more if ideas don't come forward. With teams and pairs, we have both dogs have to be able to sit they have to be able to stay in a sit or down while another dog is playing on the field. It's huge, really huge. And then with urban herding, or I'm sorry, with the team in pairs, we now have actually 2 formations. So you have to be able to send each dog to the correct formation because there's more than one on the field. So that can be a real change in thoughts.
Can I ask a question about that 2 formations?
Sure.
So,
Sure.
okay, so you got 2 novice formations that each dog breaks their formation and balls start crossing, right? Like, so dog whose formation was on the left, his ball might roll to the right.
Yes.
And get mixed up in the other dog's balls. So then it becomes balls in order and that you've got to direct your dog to the right ball, right? Correct.
And so indeed, when we've been playing, we did play with it a little at our trial. A couple of people tried it. We had on the score sheet, we just recorded which balls, just like balls, which balls belong to dog A and which balls belong to dog B. And what we found at the novice level, it wasn't a problem. In our mind, as we were making that game, we thought that was a real possibility. Novice level, we didn't, as long as the dog went to the correct formation to start, things didn't get too mixed up. It wasn't, there's only 4 balls total on the field, so it wasn't too difficult.
I have a question. So I have already started some of this with one of my students, where we put up a couple of the gates where we've made him have puzzles. So if he gets it in the corner, I've noticed he has a tendency to put his foot on the ball to help move it out of the corner. Is he allowed to do that?
Yes, innate. We do permit that innate. As long as the ball doesn't burst.
The what?
That's quite legal. As long as the ball doesn't burst, doesn't pop.
Oh yeah, he does.
Long nail. Yeah.
Okay.
Then that's totally legal.
Okay. Thanks.
So what were some of the other training ideas?
Oh, hey, I'm sorry, to go back to teams and pairs, do you have any video from your live event that you, or from that we can put up on Facebook or something?
So I know it's out there. I didn't video those. Brenda, did you by chance get a video of your 2 dogs?
No, actually, I had somebody just take a bunch of stills of us because we were going to upload them to the photo thing. So I did not get a video of my dogs.
So we will make an effort because to get that video, and we will get it up because Brenda has played this with her 2 dogs, and Sandy has done it with her 2 dogs successfully, and I believe Mary has done it with hers. So we should be able to generate some video that we could put up on the website so people could see it. I think that's a good idea. Anybody else have any other training ideas to help with the team and pairs? Especially you guys who have successfully done it.
While it's probably old news, I would just say mat work.
Yeah.
I do have a question.
Uh-huh.
But now I just lost it again. Oh, so when you're playing T, the one where you have 2 handlers and 2 dogs, can the one handler that's not having a dog out running, can they be holding their dog?
You betcha. In fact, it's required
Okay.
because,
Okay.
yes, correct. We envisioned all kinds of bad things happening. So this is the one game all the way through the levels. Yes, it's required you maintain control of your dog who's not playing
Okay.
at the moment.
Okay.
Yes. All right. Do we have anything else? And that was in fact, I think on our list is the ability to work with the dog other than your housemate on the field.
Right.
You know, we had a few moments where we had some dogs go out and give two dogs go out in the field, and at the first the dogs were looking like, what are you doing here? They were looking at each other and like, I don't think this is right. So they did something to practice.
So just to clarify then, on the pairs, the dog that's not playing is not holding the position. Like they don't have to use that impulse control to hold position.
Correct.
Oh,
Correct.
okay.
And that was purely because we didn't want to be in that situation where
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
we all know. We don't know what we were avoiding there, is that accident, because we envisioned this, live event especially, you could walk out and be up with playing the pairs game with a complete stranger, you and the dog. So
Okay.
so definitely.
And Eric mentioned mats, but are mat stations allowed during actual competition for
At novice
team?
level, yes. Novice level permits mats. In
okay.
fact, if you look at the picture on the right, you can see that Sandy White's dogs. You can't that's Chase, that's on the far left, and he's sitting on a gray mat while I believe Allie is out on the field running. Yes, and that's, you can see, here we have two formations. This one, Allie's ball, she's a veteran, her balls are smaller, they're closer. And there's a mat behind Sandy, and Chase is sitting very nicely on a mat on the other corner of the goal. So yes, we thought for novice that would be a great way to start. Permit mats.
I would add, obedience is kind of my background or my basis. If you're going to do team, either with both of your dogs or your dog and a friend's dog, do some obedience sit stays as practice, because one handler is out there with two dogs, and you can't be holding one while you're directing the other one. So a good solid sit stay, or whatever you want to call it, is pretty essential.
Yes. Yes.
I second that. I would say it's critical.
Yeah.
Yes.
The only way you're going to survive this. Yes.
I teach a lot of the dogs too.
Sorry, go ahead.
I teach a lot of the dogs when we're working in try. I teach them how to freeze, so they learn how to do the stop. So I do that a lot.
Excellent. Excellent. That's exactly the kind of thing you need to do.
If a dog breaks from their station or their downstay or whatever, and there's no mat, and goes out onto the field, is that an NQ or immediately, or is there faults on that?
I don't want to lie, I'm checking real quick just to make sure. There's certainly penalties. So if they break position, I believe it's if the inactive dog gets up, it's a 10-second fault. And it becomes an NQ if the dog chooses to interact with the other dog. So if the inactive dog goes and interacts with the dog that's supposed to be active, that becomes an NQ. But it's just a 10-second fault if they break their stay. Any more questions on teams or pairs or ideas? I'm certain that the biggest thing is one dog being able to handle another dog there and be still. The formation was, from our practice, that what we've seen is the two formations was nowhere near as big a deal to the dogs as what we people thought it was. They just need a little direction control. As the levels get higher, they'll have to have more balls in order skills to be able to make sure they get to the right ball. But
I have a question. Can you do, so if you're going to do teams, sorry, I keep getting confused which is which. If you're going to do teams, and like, let's say I have a student with 2 dogs and she wants to do teams and have me work one of the dogs. So then it's not my dog registered to me and Nate. Is that addressed in the rules?
Yes, we did put in the rules that for the pairs, for 2 handlers, they must be working their own dogs. And we actually did that for team also. To start with team, where it's 1 handler and 2 dogs.
Okay, sorry.
They do both have to be your dogs. So that was thrown in the rules. Yes. 1
handler, 2 dogs, they're both your dogs, but pairs, the second handler can work another person's dog.
No, both handlers have to work their own dogs.
Okay, that's what I was, okay. So yes, I could not work, my student couldn't say, hey, I want to do, shoot, I can't, teams. Is that teams or pairs? I'm sorry.
Pairs. Pairs is two pairs.
Two pairs.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why that's hard for me today. Right. Okay, so my student couldn't say, I want to work pairs and have you work my second dog. That's not going to go. Okay.
Correct. Good questions, because we thought that through a lot. How did we want to see that play out? All right. Any more before we go on to the urban herding, where we're really going to probably dive into that training business? All right, let's go on. All right, urban herding. Some of the basic things, it's going to be pushing the ball away from the handler, finding balls they can't see while they're just sitting in the goal or handler box. That actually is an important skill for this one. And putting the ball somewhere besides the goal. So not, we don't see that in novice. Novice, they don't have to do that. But as they move up the levels, they will actually start leaving balls in pens instead of bringing them all back to you. The pictures, you can see we've got a nice shot that kind of gives you perspective, the novice level, a pen versus where the goal and the handler box are. And you can see a dog just starting to push the ball out of the pen. And then the bottom one is, you can see there are 3 fences, and the dog has to be able to run out and pick off that ball from the fence, which, while we humans see them pretty well, we've seen the dogs have to often get out there before they go, oh, look, there's a ball. So there is a kind of a hide and seek flavor to this game also. But Eric kind of started off the whole training ideas. Eric, you want to go back and hit that again, and then do you have more? I know I kind of cut you off there.
I mean, that's our outline. I guess from there it really just depends on your dog and how you expand and how they learn, and every dog's different.
Yes, I know. Some of who have started working that. I found as much like Eric with my border collie, who has already done a whole lot of training that all balls should be pushed toward me. That initial setting, trying to get him to push the ball inches, to have him not line up on the other side of the ball, that was probably the first problem. So, it was, I had to put the ball between 2 wings and keep him right beside me. And I had to reward that first little step where he reached out and even touched the ball, because his instinct was run around those wings and get on the other side, because that's where I'm supposed to be. That's what you've trained me. So the first moments were hard. But once they start going, oh, okay, you actually do want something different. it does get easier. And I use much the same ideas as Eric, that I
And
actually set up a channel so that I put the dog, I had 2 short fences, and I put the dog beside me, and I just rewarded every push he made where he could not get around the ball. So he kind of had to push the ball through the channel to flip to the other side. And I started calling a new thing. It was drive. Bringing it to me is push. Taking it away from me is drive. So
I just piggyback off that and reiterate that we can easily overdo training, right? So if we're going to start this new thing that we know is going to frustrate our dog, especially after they think they know what they're doing, just do it in small increments.
yes.
So we don't want to
Yes.
take the fun and the desire out of the game. We actually want to bring that desire in. So play the game, spend 20 or 30 seconds trying to do this push, and then play the actual game again and let them make sure we're still having fun.
Right. Yeah, and it took us some time to get us to push that ball down the channel. And once we did, and then I started flipping it when he was pushing the ball away from me down the channel. I kept saying drive, and he'd get to the end, I'd have him flip around and bring her back, and now he was pushing, push, 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 drive, drive. So he was going just back and forth in the channel until that kind of became fun. That was its own game. So yes.
Yeah, and once we had that down, and once Jet would kind of come in by my side and push the ball, drive the ball away from me, what I did is I used that exact same thing, me standing on the outside of the pen, right, and having Jet come around the ball. So she's standing next to me. She's on the inside of the pen. I'm on the outside of the pen, and then asking her to push the ball away. Because remember, that first hurdle is getting the dog to circle the ball in the pen and bring it back out and around that pen and back to you.
Yes. Like you can see, this is Debbie Decker here, and this is Dino. The way we started that, and I don't know if you can see the mouse on the screen. You might not be able to. Debbie would just stand here at the entrance of the pen, send him around the ball, have him push it to her, and then she would slowly, just kept repeating it, and she would slowly, she'd stand beside the opening, and then she'd step further and further back each time, so that it got patterned for him. Even though she was getting to the point where she was behind the pen, all the way at the end, he was still, by then he had it. Oh, I go in and I get all the way around the ball before I start pushing the ball. And once he was able to do that, then that was another time, started calling it drive. You're driving until you turn that corner and you're pushing it back to me. And I would bet we've got some video of that somewhere. What about, does anybody else have any? Margaret, Sandy, some of you guys who have, Brenda, you have played with some of this?
I started the same way Chris did, setting up sort of like a channel so that they would learn this new command, drive, which was push the ball away from me. And so, of course, because I'm really interested in this game, the next thing I want to do is figure out how to get them to put the ball in the pens. And so I sort of did the reverse of what Debbie did to get Dino to push the ball out of the pen, where I would put the ball near the opening of the pen, and then I would stand on the back side of the pen and say, drive in is what I was telling him. And so Ben is actually having pretty good success now, taking the ball from wherever I'm standing and driving the ball away from me and putting it in that pen. We're not quite ready to do it in a competition, but we're getting there. So it's a little bit of back chaining, I guess, is sort of what we use to get that to work.
Mm-hmm. And working in small increments.
Yeah, very small.
Do a little bit and walk away and go play something else.
Yep.
Chris, this is Sam.
Hi, Sam.
So a good foundation for driving is to line the dog up on whatever line you want the dog to push the sheep or push the ball. And if you send the dog around the ball and stop them at all different angles, and then have them push from that direction, pretty soon you have the ability to move that ball 90 degrees, 180 degrees, or towards you. So, you know, foundation is just vital in all this stuff. But, you know, if you set that mat, have them go to the mat away from you, have them go to the mat 90 degrees from you, have them go to the mat in front of you, between you and the ball. And then from there, you know, ask them to push or ask them to drive, whatever your command might be. And then another step would be parallel drive, where you're asking the dog to drive the ball as you both move in the same direction. And I think that kind of helps work into the drive it away from me, because then as you're walking with the ball, as the dog is pushing it, you just fade back a little bit, and you fade back a little bit. So, but again, like y'all are saying, you know, this is a game of inches, you know, and take your time with it. You know, I've been doing herding now for about 5 years, and it's sometimes really ugly when you're on sheep, but sometimes it's just gorgeous. But it all goes back to having all that good foundation work where the dog understands what you're asking.
Right. Sam, and I'd love to see some video of you work, because those sound like really excellent ideas. You know, to some degree, I've done some of that, but you know, the walking, the herding.
Yeah, I would just interject and say number one, boy, Sam she's talking like a sheep herder. So I mean, that whole kind of philosophy and concept is it. And I'd also say that she's really, really onto something, because when we get into the higher levels, it's going to be critical to be able to put your dog on an away or put your dog on a come by and be able to stop, because we're now taking balls at 50 feet from one pen to another and not necessarily bringing them back or driving them all the way out to the pen. So being able to get that foundation that she's talking about right there is awesome. So thank you very much for that, Sam. That was wonderful.
Yep. Very nice thing.
This is Kyla. I have a question about that. So I've done some herding, but never to the point where I was doing any driving. So like starters courses years ago. And I can send my dog on an away or go by to pretty much any ball in the field. I can stop her at any angle. But once I stop her, she has the drive to correct that ball towards me. So how do I convey to her, I don't want it to come to me, I want it to go over there? The parallel drive thing makes sense, fading back. But you know, unlike the sheep, if she takes a step to the left, the sheep will move away from her, and that will draw her into that a little bit. The ball doesn't move until she moves it. So that's the part that I'm not having a clear idea of how I'm going to train that. I can stop her out there in the field. Now, how do I convey to her that I don't want her to bring it to me? I want her to take it across.
So if go ahead, Chris. So I would say that's twofold. I would say it's almost putting together kind of what Sam was talking about and what I was talking about. Those are two different things you're talking about right there. One is the actual pushing of the ball or driving of the ball, and the other one is that cross drive, right? So you could just as easily, well, make sure two things. Make sure we're not asking for that drive before the dog really kind of understands it, but you could reposition yourself, right? So I might send my dog on an away and stop her, but then reposition myself just accordingly before I actually ask her to drive, so that she has an understanding of a routine or a pattern that I have built up using that channel or using those gates to teach her how to drive that ball when I ask for it and not circle it. Sorry, your turn, Chris.
Right. So, and no, that's good. What we have been playing with, and we haven't taken it very far, is, you know, when we've first been teaching the push, bring the ball to us, we teach the dog that they need to bring the ball straight to us and hit us like we're the target. And what we've started to play with is, one idea is teaching them to drive the ball to some other target, a cone, a bucket, something, so that we can start and get them driving across the field in a cross drive towards something else, and even to building it to the point, we haven't yet, but building it to the point where then we can give that a cue, whatever that might be, that when I cue whatever, pumpkin, the dog will understand they need to drive the ball to the right or something like that. So we've been playing with the idea of working on teaching them to drive to a different obstacle instead of us, as we have done in the initial games.
Chris, can I jump in?
Sure.
So two of the things that I would think about is rewarding your dog away from you. Okay, so if your dog is out and has stopped and is on the ball, if you can give them a reward out there, that will help her understand, or him or her understand, that that's a good place to be, right? And the other thing is use your body. In herding, when we're starting out on the drive, we will use our crook, or at least I was taught to use my crook or use my arm to direct the dog, to say that we're going in this direction. We're now going to turn. We really use our body to say, where do I want you to place that ball? And sometimes we as handlers, we face the field, we face the dog, and we don't give them a lot of information with our body. And I think that helps a lot. At least it helps my dog if I am pointing in the way I want my dog to go.
There we go. So in essence, you would say, if you want the dog driving the ball, I'm just gonna say to the right of the field, you would be facing more toward the right of the field.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. Very powerful information. One of the things we have done here is this finding the ball thing. When we have 3 fences out there, we played a number of games just with the fences, getting them to go out around those fences, because the dogs initially have no clue that balls are hiding back there. And so that was one we played. And we played some maze-like game, just all about getting that dog to understand that just because they can't see a ball doesn't mean there's not one out there. So we did a lot of work just really building the trust along the lines of, if I've sent you, there is a ball, go find it. So it's, I think it was surprising to a lot of us at first that, because we can pretty well look and go, yeah, there's a ball, I know exactly what fence it's behind, but it wasn't so obvious to the dogs. So just teaching them to get out and around those fences to look was an important thing.
I have a question. Anyone who's spent serious time on this, have they had their dog, when they go back to try and play a formation game, Nate game, have they had the dog hit the formation out onto the field in the wrong direction?
No, it's a good question, but no, we haven't seen that. Which, and those were some of my initial concerns too, is just how much will this mess up the, what I call the standard B&O game? And I haven't seen that happen. We've also worked on, like you can see in the bottom picture, the dog they go out for that ball, teaching them to push the ball off, in other words, scoop it off of that fence. In the standard game, a lot of the dogs initially, they want to go out, line up, and then they try to drive the ball right through the fence. So yeah, it makes all the sense in the world to them. So we actually work on teaching them to scoop that ball off and get them used to the idea that even though the handler's standing back in the goal, they don't go out and line up on that ball. They need to come in from the side and scoop it. And so then my thought was, well, what's that going to do to the formation? Will they just go out and start picking the point ball off? Which, that's fine for standard, but it'll kill you in balls in order. And we've had very little confusion with that. Majority of the dogs, they've worked the formation, that triangle or diamond, enough already that it doesn't mess with them, that we're teaching them sometimes to go out and do other things. So far we haven't seen anything.
Plus you have that huge environmental cue of the fence panel. So that makes it different for them too.
It does. It very much does. When they see those fences out there, once they've played it some, it's very clear. They see fences, they don't see a big clump of balls. What else have some of you guys noticed who've been playing with this? Are there other things? Have any, so amongst those that have been playing with it, what initial fears did you have that have not panned out? Like, oh man, I was afraid my dog would do this, and they don't seem to have a problem at all. No fears, really? You didn't come into this with any fears?
Well, the fears have more to do with can we train it, but
yeah.
My biggest thing was just frustration. I didn't, I was thought that Jet would get so frustrated at getting balls in corners or things like that she would pull off. But she did a good job of staying with me. I mean, she still yelled at me, but yeah.
Yeah, same thing with Bling. I mean, she's she likes driving. She likes driving sheep. She would rather just have me go away and she'll do her jobs. So she was a little frustrated getting stuff out of the corners. There's just more corners, and a little bit tighter corners. So she had to work the ball a little bit, especially in the little pen there. But once she did it, like twice, she was like, got it, Mom, just get out of my way. That's kind of the way they feel.
Yep, I have to say, yeah, I was worried about dog frustration. But once they've done it a couple times, it doesn't seem to be an issue. Fact is, I'd say the novice level, because these dogs have all done enough standard and balls in order, once they see it, I think it's easier to train than it was to train 3 balls in a formation and only get that point ball. I think there's enough, I think they have enough reinforcement history that just getting the ball and playing, it made this, the novice level was actually much easier to train than what you might think just looking at the pictures.
Yeah, I would add on to that, and I would say I'm still scared of the higher levels.
So
we haven't even got there yet.
So am I.
I did have a small space training idea while listening to all of this, and that is I made a homemade gate, but I'm going to use my hallway as one side and a little 4-foot gate, and work as Eric was suggesting, teaching the dog to drive both directions, and do it in increments, because it'll be in the house, it'll be warm, I can work 5 minutes. Naturally, my clock's going off now, but
it's an excellent use for a hallway. I've even considered things like, well, if you don't have a hallway, pull your couch out from the wall, work between the wall and the couch. So one of the students, Sue, she just for the dog learning just how to steer the ball, she has a game in her house, and it turns out, well, it has other applications. She has 3 different dogs she's working in the game. She just goes and puts a ball in a room, and then she sends a dog and says, go find it and bring it back to me. And that is very much like doing the fences or in a pen. The dog has to run out, find where she's hidden the ball in the house, and then negotiate whatever it takes to get the ball back to her. So it very much mimics the game that's going on here.
But now, can she have them take it back to her room? Put it in the guest room.
And that's coming. We're not there yet. but at least it has that idea of you have to go out and find those balls and negotiate some route back. So definitely a nice go find it game. Also, I think it's small space. This is one of those times that I know I always tell people if you've got a kitchen and a kitchen island, I'd always say, well, have your dog practice pushing the ball around the island, and now it's something you can turn around and have them drive the ball away from you around the island. Because a lot of times with islands in the kitchen, you get a nice narrow pathway to work with.
Hey, Chris, did you have one more slide on
Yes, I
building
do.
some of these panels?
And we're gonna, and we don't want to run out of time here.
Well, it's already past 8. So.
Yep. So we'll have to kind of wrap it up. We have Sam did a nice we'll call it a write-up of how she made her training fences, and they look very similar to the picture in the lower right of one of Sandy's pictures here. And we have uploaded that onto the website so that, you know, it has everything, how to cut the pipe, all the different lengths, and put it together. And then Margaret's working on one. This is the one in the top picture. That's the one we've created for using in our trials. And Margaret's version has the advantage of there's no feet on one side. So in particular, little dogs don't have to also negotiate getting balls over the feet as they're pushing them around. And we can weight it on the back side so it doesn't move around. And she'll be getting that completed, and we'll get that loaded up on the website too. So if you have questions about, you want to build a PVC type fence for practice, we'll get those up for you. And like I say, Sam's already up her design. So.
And I think I saw in the rules that the feet on one side of these panels has to be flat if you have feet on both sides.
Flat.
I don't know what you would recommend using for that.
Metal.
Metal.
Yeah. I think like the weave pole type bases. Of course, we went the much cheaper route, and that's some of what's in Margaret's design there, is we went the much cheaper rate, just PVC. But I know a lot of people do actually have the ability to work with metal, so.
You can also take the feet off one side.
Right. Take feet off one side and just nice.
If you take the feet off one side, and put sandbags.
Yes.
Add a couple of sandbags on the side that does have the feet.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Because we learned it's already a tough enough game, and as we learned with our very tiny dogs, the feet can suddenly become just one more problem that the big dogs don't really have.
Yeah.
So
my little 13-inch dog has a lot of trouble with feet.
All right. So that was the end of what we have. And we do welcome if other people come up with, designs for stuff. If you can get them to us, we'll get those loaded up, because that sort of thing helps everybody get those kinds of things. Does anybody else have any other questions on this? You can always post them on social media, on our Facebook, and we'll get answers to you. If you're not using social media, you can send us a question. You can always use, if nothing else, you can use info@nationaltreibball.com, and we will get answers back to you as quickly as possible. So, all right.
Hey, Chris, this is Sam. Can I just do a little shout out here? We're going to do a Treibball Day up at French Creek Pet Resort on Sunday, 19 December. So all you Washington people who are introducing yourselves, we're going to do a workshop for the advanced folks and VTs, or videotape runs, from 9 to 11. And then in the afternoon, we're going to do an intro to Treibball to try to get, people interested and, kind of show off what we've been doing. And I think it's going to be a good day. It's a nice arena, and it'll probably be raining. So it's always good to be inside.
Where and when again?
It is in Snohomish at French Creek Pet Resort on Sunday, December 19th. We'll do the advanced workshop and the VTs from 9 to 11. And then from noon to 4 is our introduction to Treibball.
Excellent. That sounds great. Make sure you post that up on, on the Treibball Facebook groups.
Yeah.
You can do it in our members group, but there's also Treibball US and Treibball. That'll hit a lot of people that might not see it.
Yeah, and Mike sent me the flyer, so I'll be putting it up everywhere.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Eric.
Yeah.
And I'll be there.
A quick plug in for.
I thought I started somebody else.
Well, I was trying to talk, but Eric kept interrupting, so I'm ready to quit.
Eric.
Sorry, Linda.
You better be. Okay, so just for putting a plug in for the video things that are the titling. I'm a new person at getting to review those, and it's been fun. It's been fun seeing all your dogs and everything that you guys are doing.
Yep. If I had anything, I would say one of the best things you can do is send in your field over before you send in any other videos. Send in your field overview and ask for a critique, because it's real tough after you've already shot 3 runs and sent them in, and then learn, oh, by the way, we can't see this at all, or whatever. So ask for that critique first. We're more than happy to give you feedback and say, this might cause problems, or don't forget this, right? And we do, while we do have, we have a lot of rules. The other thing we do is in video time, we also, there's a lot of open for interpretation. There's things that this is, for whatever reason, some particular thing might be the only way we can set it up. And we have ways to help you with that. So you can get some nice feedback to say, okay, well, if you do this, you'll meet our criteria.
Yeah,
so
even brighter tape.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's an interesting job.
Yes, it is. See a lot of great things. All right, so if we don't have any more questions, I think we'll wrap this up. I appreciate everybody coming, and appreciate all the questions and the sharing going on with the training ideas. So like I say, we will get this wrapped up, and we'll get the recording posted, so those who couldn't make it will be able to come back and watch it later. All right, if there's no more questions, all right. Well, thank you everyone for showing up, and we will hopefully have another chat soon. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
Kyla, see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you guys. There we go.